This
Hello
is a
everyone, welcome to
demonstration
15 Minute
of flip
Mysteries. I
format.
am your host, Nikhil, and let's not muck about. Today's episode is about China. Now, the easiest way to understand or explain, in my case, China's history is in 5 waves, and these 5 waves each build upon the accomplishments of the previous wave, thus creating this pyramid shape you see before you. But before we get into any of these waves, it's important to understand a little bit about China's geography. More specifically, the things that isolate
This is a
China from the rest of the
demonstration
world.
of flip
The
format.
Himalayas to the south, the Taklamakan Desert to the west, the Gobi Desert and the Steppe to the north, and the seas to the east. These will be crucial to the development of China. Equally crucial is the Yellow River and China's sorrow, which is the destruction that the Yellow River brings whenever it floods. Also, the Gobi Desert's lowest soil, which is a very fine soil that is only in the Gobi Desert.
This is a demonstration
creation
of flip format.
Of the world in China comes with Pangu, who was hatched from an egg and started to chisel away to create a rift between heaven and earth. Once he finished this, after 100,000 years of work, he died. Now, the first dynasty, which we don't actually know if it existed or not, is the Shah dynasty. And the Shah dynasty basically
This is a
consisted
demonstration
Yao
of flip
Shun and
format.
Yu, the 3 sage kings. And they're called the sage kings because after them, every single king in China tried to be what they were. They set the standard for all kings past them, and thus they've been written into legend. But we still have no concrete evidence that they do exist, and therefore Shah must be written with quotes.
This is a demonstration of
We
flip
move on
format.
to the first dynasty that we do actually know existed, the Shang dynasty. At first, the Shang dynasty was also like the Shah dynasty. We didn't know if it existed or not. We just thought it was legend because it had been written about. But then the first piece of concrete evidence that came out were oracle bones. People were actually shaving these bones and putting them into medicines. But one night, a guy
This is
found
a
out that there was
demonstration
writing
of flip format.
on these bones. And so he went to the people and he asked them, where'd you get these shavings? And they pointed him to a place where they actually had characters written on like turtle shells and cow shoulders, bones. And from that point on, they knew it had to exist because there were like at least 4,000 characters dated to 1250 BC. And they knew
This
that
is a
it had to be
demonstration
created
of
before
flip
that, because
format.
4,000 characters can't just be created overnight. But during the Shang, one of the biggest problems was that the king was also the priest, as the king was the only person who had a connection to Shangdi, or the god of the time. Or so it was believed. And so the people
This is a
used to do
demonstration
ancestor
of
rites
flip
because
format.
they couldn't get access to God. They would have to go through the king. So they talked to the people, their ancestors who had lived before them. The Shang also founded silk because they were the first ones we know existed, and since silk is the only thing, silk is something that only China has. It was just natural.
This is a demonstration
So,
of flip format.
a Han Dynasty historian, Sima Chan, who wrote his Records of the Grand Historian, wrote about King Wuding and Lady Fu Hao. But this was before we knew they existed. And at one point in time, 1930s, Lady Fu Hao's tomb was actually discovered. And there were bronzes and inscriptions mentioning her.
This is a
and they all
demonstration
corroborated
of flip
Sima Chan's
format.
story. So we do believe Sima Chan's story, and that gives us reason to believe that the Shah dynasty's stories may also be true. Now, the last Shang king was basically a guy who was just entranced by the wealth and wanted to just live the good life, and he had wine pools and he was extremely corrupt.
This is
And
a
so
demonstration of flip format.
what they did was they actually overthrew him. The Zhou dynasty, King Wen Wu and the Duke of Zhou, they all came across and overthrew him, and that started the Western Zhou dynasty. And the Western Zhou dynasty, the first thing they did was throw out Shangdi, because that's why it had been so hard for all of the revolutions in the past
This
to
is a
succeed or even
demonstration
go through,
of flip format.
because the king was the only person who had a link to the god. So if you killed the king, you would be breaking your link with God, and you know how it goes from there. And so what happened was, as soon as the Zhou took power, the first thing they did was to destroy the idea of Shangdi and instead create a mandate of heaven, or
This
Tian.
is a demonstration of flip format.
And Tian was basically defined as heaven. And so the mandate was Tian sees through the eyes and hears through the ears of the people, which basically means if there's a bad king, he's going to be overthrown because he doesn't have the right to lead. During this time, two of the Confucian classics, the Shujing and the Shijing, were both written.
This is a
And
demonstration
what ended
of
up
flip
happening was the
format.
Zhou dynasty decided to implement a system of feudalism, in where there was a vassal lord, and there was a feudal lord for each state. And these states were completely run by the feudal lord, and he had power over laws and everything. And so after a while, there was a king called
This is a
Zhou
demonstration
at the end
of
the
flip
Zhou
format.
dynasty. And what happened to him was, during the time that he was in power, he kept crying rebellion, rebellion, and people would come to help him. But there was actually no rebellion. So after a while, the vassal lords started not trusting him. And eventually one of them decided to overthrow him. And when he did come to overthrow him, Yo wasn't ready. And when he called out rebellion,
This is a
everyone
demonstration
thought he
of
was just
flip
playing
format.
prank again. So no one came to help him. And the Western Zhou got overthrown. And when the Eastern Zhou took power, there was a lot of disarray in the country, and it eventually fell into the Warring States period, which we also know led to the beginning of Chinese political philosophy, the 100 Schools of Thought, the first Lotus Blossom, where Confucius,
This is a
Zhuangzi,
demonstration of
the
flip format.
head of Taoism, and the head of legalism, Han Feizi, all rose to power because each warring state needed something, anything that it could believe in how to rule the country. And the warring states was the end of wave one. And so now we bring ourselves to an
This
interesting
is a
question.
demonstration of
Is
flip format.
geography destiny? For China, yes. Because geography isolates China so much, none of the other countries can really affect China's development, and China develops on its own. This no contact phase really helps China become single-minded, because they don't
This
have
is
to
a
think about
demonstration of flip format.
anything other than progressing and how to become a better society. Also, pictographic writing, character writing. As we all know, China has a system of writing characters rather than using letters like the Anglo-Saxon alphabet. What this does is these pictographs,
This is a
represent
demonstration
an idea
of flip
in real
format.
life, represent a dog. The character for a dog represents a dog. And because of this, even if you mess up the character in some way, it still makes sense. A dog is a dog. A dog with slightly misshapen ears is still a dog. And so everyone in the country who could read and write could understand each other.
This is a demonstration of flip
Even
format.
though dialects were different, a dog is still a dog. And this really unified China in the sense of writing, because it was all together, everyone understood everyone else. A few key quotes are from Confucius, talking about his family, filial piety, talking about telling people the truth. These are all quotes from the Warring States period. And
This is a demonstration of flip format.
Now, along with this, we kind of find a connection, or disconnection, if you will, because in Europe, the unity of geography, how everything was so close to each other, really made the instincts of Europeans barbaric almost, because all of them
This is a demonstration of flip
about
format.
what the country next to them would do to them, what the country on the right or the left, when they were going to attack them, when they were going to try and take out. And this really made the instincts barbaric, because they couldn't be single-minded. They had to develop technology for defense or for attack, rather than for making agriculture more efficient. However, China could
This
do
is
that,
a
but China
demonstration
didn't even
of flip
know
format.
that another civilization existed. And so they could focus on whatever they wanted, and they focused on things that actually were important. And this brings us to the beginning of Wave 2. Wave 2 began with the Qin dynasty still being a feudal state in the middle of the Warring States period, and the Qin dynasty
This is a
decided,
demonstration of
with
flip
its
format.
13-year-old ruler, Qin Shi Huangdi, that it was going to take over China, or in its eyes, the world. And they did. And so Qin Shi Huangdi found himself in a pickle, because he didn't know which form of political philosophy he wanted to use. Eventually, he ended up
This is a
choosing
demonstration of flip format.
legalism, because he was a harsh ruler, but legalism was efficient and it was effective. Qin Shi Huangdi really wanted to protect his country, and so the first thing he did was create a defensive wall from the barbarian tribes in the north.
This is a
which we now
demonstration
know is
of flip
the
format.
Great Wall. Obviously, this wasn't the complete stage of the Great Wall, because the dynasty only lasted 25 years, and the Great Wall took hundreds to build. I mean, it is one of the 7 wonders of the world. But even more importantly, Qin Shi Huangdi started something called centralized bureaucracy. And what centralized bureaucracy is the culmination
This is a
of
demonstration of flip
imperialism,
format.
where there is one ruler who sits in the center, and there are a bunch of governors around him. And each of these governors rule over a state, but they all report to the leader, the ruler, rather than in the form of feudalism, where they were all governing their own states however they wanted to. And what this did was it created distrust.
This is a
if one
demonstration of flip
person
format.
wants to secede, he doesn't even have to tell the king. He just secedes and takes over if he wants to, which is what happened to the Eastern Zhou. This was called the Achilles heel of feudalism, and Qin Shi Huangdi solved it with centralized bureaucracy. Eventually, though, Qin Shi Huangdi died, and his son took over. His son was a really bad ruler, and eventually Liu Bang, a peasant, joined a revolution.
This is a
became one of the main
demonstration of flip format.
leaders of the revolution, and overthrew him. Liu Bang decided that legalism's not going to work, because he was a peasant, and he knew that peasants really hate harsh laws. And so he decided to adopt Taoism, and Taoism was let it flow. If it happens, it happens. Good luck, bad luck, who knows.
This is a
And he really
demonstration
hated
of flip
Confucians
format.
too. But eventually he saw that Confucianism was beginning to become more prominent. And so he dies, and a few more rulers go, and then Han Wudi sits on the throne. Now, Han Wudi is one of the most important rulers in China because he did a few major things. First off, he wanted to set up outposts in the
This is a
Taklamakan Desert
demonstration of
because
flip
he
format.
wanted to defend from the Xiongnu and Shanbei invading tribes. And through these outposts, he needed a large sum of money to fund these outposts. And so he started taxing the merchants, who were seen as the lowest in the social order, because all they did was buy low, sell high, and they just made profit off nothing.
This is a
And they really had no
demonstration of flip format.
desire to help society, or even if they did, they couldn't help society with what they were doing. And so they were on the lowest. So Han Wudi started to tax them heavily, and eventually the merchants decided that buying low, selling high, buying products low and selling products high wasn't efficient. And so they started going into agrarian-based real estate, and they would buy land and sell land.
This is a demonstration of
It
flip
turned
format.
an entire economy of China into an agrarian-based economy, which is extremely important because it stayed there for the rest of China. One other thing that he did was, by setting up these outposts, he secured a safe route from China to the west, which eventually led to what we now know as the Silk Road, where luxury products flowed in from Persia, India, and from China.
This is a
silk
demonstration
flowed out.
of flip format.
The third thing that Han Wudi did was he decided that instead of Taoism, because that obviously wasn't working that well, he would try to implement Confucianism. And so he set up Confucian Civil Service Academy and the civil service exams which you needed to pass to become a scholar official, or in other words, hold a government position. Han Wudi was the last
This is a
important emperor
demonstration
in
of
the
flip
Han
format.
Dynasty, the Western Han Dynasty. And after him, there was a king who was basically a figurehead, and his own uncle threw him off the throne and decided that he wanted to redistribute land to the peasants because everything was happening too fast and the rich-poor gap was growing. However, the Yellow River changed its course twice. And during this time, all the peasants got angry. Even though
This
they
is
were
a
getting
demonstration
land
of flip
redistributed to
format.
them and everything. They got angry because the mandate of heaven declared that he was no longer a fit ruler because the Yellow River had changed course twice. And so they overthrow him, and the Eastern Han starts. Eastern Han Confucianism becomes prevalent. Eunuchs become influential over the future heirs. The rich-poor gap grows. People complain, and
This is a
Buddhism
demonstration
becomes
of flip
prevalent,
format.
and obviously scenicized because there's a fat Buddha instead of a serious Buddha. And Han ends. 3 generals each claim the mandate of heaven. This starts the period of disunity. And so one of the main things that should be taken away from this entire wave is the importance of a centralized bureaucracy. Now, a centralized bureaucracy
This is
doesn't
a
just have to be
demonstration of
a
flip
system
format.
of government. It could also be schools. Our schools are centralized bureaucracies. We have a principal who is the overall head, and he gives power to each of his governors or department heads. And really this solved the problem of vassal loyalty, because no longer is a vassal the head of his own state.
This is a
He is
demonstration
part
of flip format.
that country. He is part of China. He is not head of his own tiny country. That's the problem that Europe kind of has, is Europe isn't a country. Europe is just a bunch of nations. And really what this did is it unified China. Like, if Europe was a country, That's what China, that's the equivalent of China after being unified.
This is a demonstration of flip
If
format.
Europe was a country rather than a continent, a group of nations. And it really set the foundation for every single imperial ruler and both the ROC and the PRC. After it, it was so important because anyone who tried to break it would be overthrown. Another important thing that came up during this time was the civil service exam.
This is a demonstration of flip format.
Basically, the civil service exams were you get educated, and because you're educated and you pass the test, you can become a scholar official. But people don't understand the actual meaning behind the education of, knowing the Shijing. It seems pointless, but
This is a demonstration of flip format.
It's so important because they have all the records of everything that Yao Shun and Yu, the three sage kings, did, and everything that's important to Chinese philosophy, to Chinese literature, to ruling a Chinese country. And knowing this made it all
This is a demonstration of
together.
flip format.
You know now what to do. However, just knowing it wasn't enough. And so you had to be nurtured by the Confucian culture, which is why they were the Confucian civil service exams, not the Taoist Confucian or the legalist civil service exams, because the culture of Confucianism, with its stress on familial loyalty,
This is a demonstration of flip format.
gentlemanliness, really made that education, what you learned in the Shujing and the Shijing, come together. That's why it's called the Confucian classics, because they make sense when put with Confucianism. And these two things together bring the country to a level where it can stand on its own because of these
This is a demonstration
people
of
who
flip
hold
format.
power. Those people are educated. Those people have been nurtured. They know what to do and how to lead a country. Here are a few quotes from Wave 2. Important, maybe not. But I think these are the most important from the Shiji, the Records of the Grand Historian, written by Sima Chan, castrated by Han Wudi.
This is a demonstration of flip format.
He wrote the entire history of China before him. The only surviving history of China other than the Zhangguoche, which only details the Warring States because its English translation is the Stratagems of the Warring States, period. Now, two things that really stood out here to me, were that the East
This is a demonstration
and the West
of flip format.
is industry-based. And this is going back to what I said all the way in the first wave. I know that was a long time ago. About geography making the West want to be able to develop in only weaponry and advanced defense technology and attacking technology.
This is a demonstration of flip format.
And for those, you need things like steel, metals, machines. And that was why the West was industry-based, because it was so centered on protection. However, the East didn't have that problem. And so it was easy for the economy to become agrarian-based because all they were doing was land. I mean, they didn't really have to worry about tomorrow they might get attacked by India, or India didn't even know they existed.
This is a demonstration of flip format.
Obviously. The second thing was that the East had a system of political philosophy. People who helped the emperor were educated. And in the West, they weren't. I mean, they'd gone to school, but they weren't educated peoples. And this really made a difference because
This
China
is a
grew at
demonstration
such a
of flip
faster
format.
rate than the West did, even though the West had connections to like 3 other countries who could have helped them grow as a collective unit. Wave 3 begins while we're still in the period of disunity, and the Three Kingdoms has happened, and after the Three Kingdoms, one of the 3 generals, Jin, wins, and he takes over for a while, and then after that, the northern barbarians
This is a demonstration of flip
decide
format.
to come down and take over because they want to have some fun, and they eventually take over, and then they rule for a while, and then Sui Wendy comes along, and he's a Buddhist, and he decides that he's going to unify China in the name of the Buddha, and he does it. And after he unifies China, he reinstitutes the Confucian civil service exams, and he reinstitutes
This is a demonstration of flip format.
centralized bureaucracy. After this, his son Yang Di comes to power. He makes the Grand Canal because he wants to get from the Yellow River to the Yangtze River, and after that, he tries to conquer Korea, and he tries 3 times and he fails 3 times, and then after that, the Tang decide to overthrow him.
This
The
is a
Chang
demonstration of flip
main
format.
city, Chang'an, was cosmopolitan, biggest city in the world with 2 million inhabitants. It was a melting pot. They had Koreans and Japanese, Jews, Muslims, Christians. Everyone was there, and what they did together was they decided to make music and poetry. And
This is a demonstration of flip
lyrical
format.
arts took off. Porcelain took off. Buddhism took off. Martial arts took off. Tea took off. It was just a flourishing of the arts. And all of that happened, making Chang'an
This
just
is a
more
demonstration
desirable to
of flip
anyone
format.
who wanted to be there, and the rulers were Confucian gentlemen during this time because they were all raised by Tang rulers in the presence of people who had passed the civil service exams. And so there is a rebellion 755 because Anlishan
This is a
was general,
demonstration
declared
of flip
himself
format.
an emperor of a rival dynasty. This eventually leads to the decline of the Tang because they become feudalistic after going through war with the Yan dynasty, the one that Anlishan ruled. And so the Song dynasty, the northern Song dynasty, comes to power, and what they do is they find loopholes and they end them in the Confucian civil service exams.
This
They
is a
build
demonstration
ships,
of flip format.
paper money, they start banking, they create gunpowder. I mean, the Southern Song come along and they continue. Cannons, watertight compartments, seas, everything's expanding. Manufacturing, steel, machines.
This is
China's
a demonstration
about to
of flip
dominate
format.
the entire world. I mean, imagine this is about 960 to 1278. Even if it had happened in 1300, by the time that people had come to invade China in 1800, they would have had 500 years to develop guns. Even Europe hasn't had 500 years to develop guns yet. What kind of guns might they have come out with? Laser guns?
This is a
Who knows?
demonstration
But then the
of flip
Mongols
format.
decide to come and they wipe out all the progress that China has made over the decades it's been working, and it no longer has anything, and it's reverted back to being a country of peasants and farmers and people who don't have technology. And so the Yuan dynasty starts after the Mongols invade because they want a piece of the pie. And so Kublai Khan becomes
This
the
is a
emperor.
demonstration of flip format.
Marco Polo comes into China, and China gets to talk to other countries, even though it's ruled by a barbaric tribe who are becoming Sinicized by now. And they go through another rebellion. They move the capital to Beijing, and finally the Mongols are driven out at the end of the
This
dynasty.
is a demonstration of flip
And
format.
that brings us to the end of wave 3. So what could have happened if Genghis Khan was actually born 50, maybe 60 years later, and China had finished development? I mean, this is such an interesting question. Alternate history, the most amazing part of history.
This is a
If China had
demonstration
finished
of flip
developing,
format.
they would have easily defeated the Mongols. I mean, with the amount of technology they had, bang, Mongols are gone. And China could have gone on to become the one world power, the one dynasty that ruled over everyone else. They wouldn't have lost to the Mongols.
This is a
They wouldn't have lost
demonstration of
Britain
flip
when the
format.
Opium War came around. They wouldn't have found themselves in a crisis with World War I or World War II. It would just be like smooth sailing because they would have had 500, 600 years to sort everything out without the rest of the world interfering. And they'd be such a dominating force in world politics, which they are only becoming now because of the amount of work that
This is a demonstration of flip format.
Another interesting find is that it's kind of cycled because Qin Shi Huangdi, there was a revolution, Qin Shi Huangdi comes along. After Qin Shi Huangdi's son isn't such a great ruler, the Han Dynasty overthrows him, and they become the peak, the pinnacle of the wave. They further education,
This is a demonstration of flip format.
arts, they further government and politics, and then after them there's another revolution. And then Sui Wendy comes along and he overthrows and reunifies China, just like Qin Shi Huangdi did. And then the Tang Dynasty overthrows his son because his son wasn't such a great ruler. And
this is a demonstration of flip format.
They create Chang'an, the cosmopolitan city. They attract people from other countries. They become a trade port. And they become the pinnacle, just like the Han Dynasty was. After them, there's another rebellion, which ends up leading to the Song, which kind of breaks the cycle, but still, it cycled. It happened again.
This is a demonstration of flip format.
And this is extremely interesting, seeing as how once Qin Shi Huangdi decided to use centralized bureaucracy, Sui Wendy also decided to use centralized bureaucracy. And after him, no one lost centralized bureaucracy. And the Han Dynasty decided to further things like art and education. And the Tang Dynasty also decided to further things like art.
This is a demonstration of flip format.
And they instituted the civil service exams. They had gentlemen-like rulers. All because of what centralized bureaucracy did and what Confucianism did in conjointedness. But them together made that happen, and it made Sui Wendy.
This is a demonstration of flip format.
It made the Tang Dynasty able to become the peak. And so, here are a bunch of quotes from wave 3 where people sail the sea.
This is a
And so we come to
demonstration of flip
comparison
format.
between the East and the West. Why is China today? And Rome is not Rome. Or Europe is not Europe. Europe is a combination of many different nations and countries. Why is it that China is still China?
This
And
is a
China is still China
demonstration of
because
flip
of
format.
2 or 3 main things. First off, and probably most importantly, there is a system of government which keeps people together. And that system is led by a set of rules, Confucian rules, that dictate how a ruler should rule and how he should let the people live, and
This
what's
is a demonstration
important for
of
the
flip
people
format.
to do. Not only the ruler, what's important for the people also. Rome never had anything like that. They just had a ruler, and the ruler tried to rule over everyone else, and that didn't work out so well. And so that brings us to the end of wave 3. And so we begin wave 4, and the Ming dynasty kicks out the Mongols, and
This is a
the Yuan
demonstration
dynasty,
of
and
flip format.
one of the first emperors raised by his eunuchs was the Emperor Yongle, and he really didn't like any of the Confucian scholar officials who were in his court, so he kicked them all out and appointed all his eunuchs to high official positions. And what he ends up doing is deciding that he needs to get recognition from other people.
This is a demonstration of
that
flip
he is
format.
the best ruler, the son of God. He is, good to other countries because he is the son of God, so he has to be good to other countries. He has to be a benevolent ruler. And so he sends out 30,000 men and 300 giant naval ships to go and collect tribute. So
This is a
Zhang He,
demonstration
his,
of flip format.
main eunuch, becomes captain of this naval expedition, and he was a Muslim, which is probably one of the most startling things I have ever heard, because I wasn't expecting a Muslim to be the head of any Chinese thing, but it shows how diverse China is. And so
This is a demonstration of flip format.
village in Yunnan was massacred by the Han Chinese people. And so he ends up going and becoming part of the eunuchs for the Emperor Yongle. And when Zhang Hui becomes 31, Yongle takes power, and he puts Zhang
This
He
is a
as
demonstration of
captain
flip
of his
format.
naval expedition, and Yongle creates the biggest navy until World War I. And so 1405, Zhang He sets sail. He goes to Calicut. He goes to places in Africa. He travels along the coastline of Asia, and he makes deals. He collects people.
This is a
to pay tribute
demonstration
to
of flip
Yongle.
format.
He basically threatens anyone who goes against him with his 300 ships and 300,000 men, 30,000 men. He, instead of starting with coercing them and forcing them to do stuff, he starts with giving them presents and showing them dances and wining and dining the rulers to come.
This
and
is
pay
a
tribute to the
demonstration
emperor,
of flip
but
format.
if they didn't, he would show force, because he had armed ships, and he had an Arab navigator, because people from the Middle East had already been charting those seas. He created the first map from China to Calicut, to Africa. Sorry. In the end, $6 billion
This is a
are spent on the
demonstration of flip
voyages,
format.
and Yongle dies. Lightning sets fire to the Forbidden City, which burns down and is reconstructed, and then the new emperor decides that this was all just stupid, and he stops. And they just come back. China just stops, and they don't progress their naval inquiries any further. They just go
This
back.
is a demonstration
This is one
of flip
the most
format.
amazing things that has ever happened, because no longer is any Chinese person no longer is any country trying to take over from the sea. They're not trying to acquire new lands, and they're not trying to massacre tribes and stuff. What they're
This
trying
is
to
a
do is get people to
demonstration
just pay
of flip
homage.
format.
And if they don't, they show a little bit of force, and then after that, the people do pay homage. But after that, the Ming falls, the Qing rises. Kangxi is one of the emperors of the Qing dynasty. What he does is he starts talking to King George III, who just kind of sends in,
This is a demonstration of flip
saying,
format.
yeah, hi, I want to have a bunch of things I can do in your country. Like, I want to have representation in your government, and I want to have more open trading ports, and I want to have a port where I can just be at and keep all my British people there, and I want my Christian missionaries to be able to enter and leave the country as they please. And Kangxi kind of goes,
This is a demonstration of flip format.
why are you just coming to my door and asking me to give you a bunch of things? And so there's a bunch of controversy about the rights that Kangxi should give. Should he give them everything? Well, obviously he says no. And then he talks about Christianity, which up till now Matteo Ricci has been
This is a
preaching
demonstration
a type
of flip
Christianity
format.
that conforms to Confucian rites. You can do both the Confucian rites and be Christian at the same time. But the king says that Christianity is being defamed, and you're not allowed to do Confucian rites while you're doing ritual. And so they go through a bunch of fighting, and eventually Britain decides that since they can't really get their tea and silk,
This is a demonstration
they're just
of
gonna
flip
start
format.
using opium. And the British East India Trading Company starts bringing opium into China and distributing it, and China becomes addicted to opium, and so they send letters to the Queen saying, stop selling.
This is a demonstration
opium.
of flip format.
I mean, at this time, the French and the Americans are going through their democratic revolutions. And China is just sending messages saying, stop bringing opium into our country, stop addicting our people. And this starts the First Opium War. First Opium War fought.
This is a
Wins.
demonstration of flip format.
Loses. China has to give stuff to Britain. China opens up more trading ports, and they give them Hong Kong. So that's 2 out of 4 demands. After that, the Taiping Rebellion happens, in where someone claiming to be the younger brother of Jesus Christ decides to go on a rampage, and he and peasant followers kill 20 million people.
This is a demonstration of flip format.
20 million people die. It's one of the most bloodiest conflicts in the history of the world. After that, the Second Opium War starts. And after this, they lose. China loses again, and they have to give more stuff to Britain, like representation and free passing.
This is a demonstration of flip
free
format.
passing for British missionaries and Christian missionaries. After this, China fights with France because France was trying to take over Vietnam and China has to help Vietnam, so China fights with France, loses some stuff. China fights with Japan, loses again. China goes through a nationalist movement which kills some more people, and after that the Qing dynasty falls and the civil service
This is a demonstration of flip format.
and the Republic of China comes about. The Republic of China was the first time that any dynasty after the Qin dynasty had used a system other than imperial rule. Having a king or an emperor.
This is a demonstration of flip format.
Governors of states. Sun Yat-sen, who was one of the leaders of the revolution, became the first president of the Republic of China, and he started to set up the Kuomintang, or the KMT, which was the nationalist group that led China for the entire Republic of China. After he died,
this is a demonstration of flip format.
Second president, and he was helping Sun Yat-sen set up the Kuomintang Academy, and they were figuring out how to take over the horrid era of warlords taking over provinces. It was almost like another feudal state situation had occurred.
This is a demonstration of flip format.
Own piece of territory, and using that piece of territory, he would exercise his own laws and his own writing systems and coins. And so the Northern Expedition happened, where the Kuomintang decided to go out and reunify China again and take over all the warlords and keep them under their control.
This is a demonstration of flip
the
format.
military commander of the Kuomintang, Chiang Kai-shek, rises to power. The Chinese Communist Party allies with the Kuomintang to take over all the people, all the warlords, and they go through and they
This
win.
is a demonstration of flip format.
China decides, the Kuomintang decide that communists are retarded and they should be quelled. And so the Chinese Communist Party gets shot by its own, what it thought was its own party members, and gets executed and put in jail and tortured.
This is a demonstration of flip format.
80,000 soldiers end up leaving. They somehow find a way to get out of China during this time. Out of the Kuomintang headquarters during this time. And they escape to the north, to the Loess soil, the caves made out of the Loess soil, up way in the north.
This is a demonstration of flip
while
format.
They're there, Japan decides to invade, and at this time Stalin is going through his 5-year plans, and World War II is going on, and the Chinese Communist Party begins to set up a university.
This is a demonstration of flip format.
And it teaches people how to become communists and how to run a government and how to be part of the army. And that's the end of Wave 4. And so there's another question that we bring ourselves to. What can the philosophic culture of China teach people? A lot. Because
This is a demonstration
philosophic
of flip
culture
format.
means the political philosophy is affecting both what the leader does and what the people do. And what the leader is doing is he's helping. He's helping the people understand what they need to do. And what the people are doing is doing what they need to do, which is being productive, working hard, being part of the family, working together as a unit, and so on.
This is a demonstration of flip format.
It brings people's interest in becoming better further. And it makes people want to be educated. Now, at this time, 10% of China is educated. And so lots of people start reading Mao's
This is a demonstration of flip format.
sayings, his little booklet of communist sayings, and they want to become educated because they're learning. They're learning from what their culture has taught them, which is that an educated person is a knowledgeable person, is a person who can do better for the world. When you're knowledgeable, when you know what to do, when you know what has happened, what the
This is a
consequences for
demonstration
everything
of
are,
flip format.
you can use a nation, you can grow a nation, because if you know what's going to happen if you do one thing, and you know that if you do another thing, something worse or better is going to happen, you would make the decision based on that. And now that you have educated decisions, you have growth, because you can choose one thing over another rather than having one thing, one choice the entire time.
This is a demonstration of flip format.
Another question that's really interesting is, what would happen to human nature if it weren't nurtured? And that's why I created this hierarchy, because if human nature is left alone, it feels like the human will automatically
This is a demonstration
turn
of
on
flip
others.
format.
It's our animal instinct that we need to be alive. We need to eat, and we need to sleep, and we need to be safe. But that's if it's left alone, which it rarely is. Usually it's nurtured. And from this nurture, depending on how the culture nurtures the human nature, humans can either become well-mannered or they could become greedy and violent.
This is a demonstration
The
of flip
culture
format.
in Europe, or the West, I should say, is teaching it that defense is important. Knights are important. The king needs to know how to have sword skills rather than communication skills. And this is really teaching them how to defend and or attack if they need to. However, in China,
This is a
the culture
demonstration
is
of
teaching
flip
them how
format.
to be respectful of their elders, filial piety, working together with the family unit. And it's cultivating people to become well-mannered. And here's a list of quotes from Qianlong, who was the person who talked to King George
This is
III,
a demonstration of
and
flip
John
format.
Chinaman, and actually the guy from the Yellow Turban Rebellion, but still. One of the most amazing differences that I found in the East and the West was that in the West, Christianity stayed the same. And Christianity was just
This is a
Jesus
demonstration
wants this
of flip
from
format.
you and 10 Commandments. And in the end, there was a rebellion, and Constantinople decides that rather than fighting the rebellion, instead they should become Christian. they should become a Christian nation. And they became a Christian nation. And for the first time, the Roman Empire is no longer a Greek or Roman empire. It's now a Christian empire.
This is a
But in the East,
demonstration of flip format.
because of the belief in Confucianism, Matteo Ricci, the preacher, came in and he knew from the beginning that just straight out Christianity wasn't going to work. And I think this is kind of important for people to see, because straight up Christianity conflicts a bit with Confucian values. And so Matteo Ricci made it conform. He molded Christianity.
This is a demonstration of flip format.
Confucianism and Christianity, because he saw Confucianism as an important thing rather than just mindless banter like how George III saw it. The East sinicizes whatever religion comes to it. May it be Judaism.
This is a demonstration of flip format.
Or Buddhism, which is the clearest example of sinicization. And so Wave 5 begins with Mao being in the north. Japan comes around and they're fighting. So for a short period of time, the nationalists and the communists decide to ally, and they fight Japan off.
This is a demonstration of flip
Eventually,
format.
The communists once again start fighting with the nationalists, and the Second Civil War began. This civil war was won by Mao Zedong's side. After winning, Mao Zedong became one of the most well-respected and well-recepted leaders because of his integration into the peasants.
This is a demonstration of flip format.
Started the rebellion. He's loved by all the people. He starts two 5-year plans to go through and restart the economy. Those don't work too well. The first one works very well, actually. The second one doesn't work well because after Mao goes through with everything, people start lying to him because they want to make him feel better. They respect him that much. And so they tell him that the plan is working when it's actually not. So
this is a demonstration of flip format.
They're pushing on resources they don't have, and it ultimately ends up failing. People start dying. There's a famine. Hundreds of thousands of people are killed due to the famine. Mao Zedong retires for a bit. The Communist Party becomes corrupt. And so then Mao decides to start the Cultural Revolution. And what he does is he goes swimming in the Yellow River for a day.
This is a demonstration of flip format.
To come with him. And they do it as a nonviolent protest against the Communist Party. In the end, they start trying to uproot the Communist Party. They go against their Confucian family values, and the first generation gap ever in China is born. And so they fight through the Communist Party.
This is a demonstration of flip format.
Positions. Mao rearranges the Communist Party and becomes head again. He sends people who were in the Communist Party before back to the fields because they didn't actually know how it felt to be part of the peasantry, to be working there. And so Mao eventually dies.
This is a demonstration of flip format.
The Communist Party then eliminates the position of chairman, the position that Mao held, because he single-handedly ruled the party, and they didn't want someone like that again. And so they put a cipher, or a nobody, in power, and the guy in power just really didn't know what he wanted to do, so it started the whateverists campaign where they didn't really know what they wanted to be.
This is a demonstration of flip format.
Came and took power, and Deng Xiaoping was one of the most focused people ever to run the country, because all he wanted was economic growth, and he would sacrifice whatever he needed to sacrifice to get through that. And so a democracy wall was made, and people would write criticisms on the government. Eventually it was torn down.
This is a demonstration of flip format.
Screw communism. Religions become policy. There's a policy that says that if you want a religious institution, you have to register for it. Freedom of speech is allowed as long as it's not against the government. Inflation hits. The Chinese Communist Party can't hold up to its promise of the Iron Rice Bowl, where it gives free
This is a
education and
demonstration
healthcare to the
of flip
people.
format.
The party becomes corrupt. But during this time, Deng Xiaoping is working with capitalism. The country is becoming richer, and as it's doing that, the rich-poor gap is growing tremendously. Students go to Tiananmen Square to protest the corruption that's occurring in the party. This doesn't help because the Chinese Communist Party basically threatens them, and after that, they just shoot at them.
This is a demonstration of flip format.
People die. The death count's about 200. A lot of people are sent to prison, and people start to back off and accept the Chinese Communist Party and accept capitalism and accept what it's changing. And that brings us to today, where we are now, with China has just relinquished its power position to another person.
This is a
And so that brings us
demonstration
to a
of flip
question.
format.
Was Mao really a monster? I mean, we all know that he was influential and essential to the creation of the Chinese Communist Party and the winning of the Sino-Japanese War and the civil war against the nationalists. But
This is a
he encouraged
demonstration
generation
of flip
gap,
format.
which is the first time in the entire history of China that generation gap has ever happened. He also made the decisions that he made knowing the consequences of them, such as when he put the people back into the reforms. He knew that some of them would come back just as corrupt, and he also knew that
This is a
he was
demonstration
going
of
to
flip
hurt
format.
some of the families of the people there. He was extremely power hungry. After he lost the power, he wanted it back, which is why he came into the country and he redid his movement to take over the government against his own communist party using the Cultural Revolution. And he cared about performance too much. Much too much. Everything was about making results.
This is a demonstration of flip format.
Deng, on the other hand, may not have been the most effective communist leader, but he was definitely a very influential economic leader and political leader, because he's basically an AK-47. Rough, ready, whatever works. Capitalist, because capitalism worked.
This is a
Even
demonstration
though the rich
of
poor
flip
gap is
format.
growing, the country is growing at an average of 8%. Its GDP is growing at an average of 8% per year. That's amazing. Politically, he accepts people, he accepts their changes, and he tries to make friends with the United States, with the Soviet Union, Russia. Communism is all about the people, the peasants, rising. And
This is a
becoming
demonstration
equal to the
of flip
government.
format.
And he exercised some repressive rights, which may not be the most communist thing to do, but he's all about efficiency and making the country better. And that's why he is the AK-47, the person who only cares about efficiency. Here are a lot of quotes from Mao Zedong. And here's the thing that I wanted to
This
get
is a
to.
demonstration of flip
During
format.
Eastern communism, when Mao overthrew his own party, instead of killing the members of his family, of each family, and killing the party officials who had become so corrupt. Instead, he sent them to work in the countryside. He sent them to work where the peasants were so that they would learn. In Western communism, all they did was kill, kill, kill. We don't want to deal with the problems. We don't want to deal with these rats.
This is a demonstration of
And
flip
it's really
format.
influenced by what the people did when they were younger, because they've gone through the same geographical unisolation, because they don't know if the country next to them is going to invade the next day, so they have to be ready, and they have to learn how to fight. They have to learn how to work. I mean, geography has really changed how
This
the
is a
people in the different
demonstration
cultures
of flip
have lived
format.
their lives. And this brings us to the points which have been recursive throughout. Family. Family has been recursive throughout. The entire time that China has been moving forward, it has been moving forward as one unit. And that unit has been from the integrity of the home, in the words of Confucius. Everything is based
This is a
on how the
demonstration
family
of flip
resides,
format.
how the family operates, and how they grow. Because the family nurtures the people to become better, to work, to become well-mannered. Going back to the nurture slide from a while ago. Also, education. The importance of education has been phenomenal, because educated people know how to make decisions, and they know what to do, what's best for the country, what's best for the
This
people.
is a demonstration of flip format.
Confucius stressed education. Confucius ruled, basically, for the next 2,000 years. It's pretty obvious the importance of education. Unity, or more importantly, the unity of China because of its geographic isolation. It is China.
This is a
in
demonstration
one
of flip
bundle,
format.
and only China, because no other country has ever come and messed with it, contaminated it, spoiled it. China is one unit. And its geographic isolation has kept it moving throughout 3,500 years. It's been one unit that entire time.
This is a demonstration of flip
Philosophy
format.
is extremely important to the Chinese culture, because the political philosophy has allowed China to grow. And not only grow, but China has developed as a nation because of philosophy, because they know what they need to do. This philosophy has told them what they need to do to be gentlemen.
This is a demonstration of flip
men,
format.
and if family is important or not, if they need to accept things, if they need to reject things. Based on these, all of the decisions of China were made, and they all became extremely important to the development, to the overall development of China. Sinicization, or becoming Chinese. Why is it
This is a demonstration
that
of
every
flip
time
format.
a barbarian tribe invaded the country, they wanted to be more like China? It's because China had a standard, and China had those other four: the unity, the education, the family, the philosophy. China was a benchmark and a standard, and everyone wanted to be like China. And really, everyone
This
still
is
wants
a
to be like
demonstration of flip format.
because everyone wants 8% growth economically per year, because right now money is the most important thing in the world, because it's the only way that a country can judge itself against another country. It can't fight the other country, because that'll spark another war, and we don't really have the world resources, enough resources in the world to fight another war. I mean, large-scale war.
This
You
is a
can't measure
demonstration of
yourself
flip format.
by anything else, like how virtuous your rulers are. I mean, unfortunately, people don't care about that anymore. It's all about money. Money has become so important to people now that people have started to lose their dreams. And dreams are what made China China. Dreams are why China is the People's Republic.
This is a
Because
demonstration of flip
it
format.
it executed, it followed up, and it made it. Thank you.